There's a lot of bureaucracy. There's a lot of paperwork. Things move slow. You have to kind of accept that. And it's really healthy. It's really good for you if you can accept that and adopt that lifestyle. But one of the things we learned was that if we were able to accomplish one thing in a day, we should celebrate.
Welcome to Live by Design Mexico Edition, the podcast about creating freedom, adventure, and a life in Mexico that truly feels like your own. I'm your host, Taniel Chemsian. If you've been dreaming of warmer days, smarter investments, and a future designed on your terms, your journey begins here. Every week, we dive into stories, insights, and strategies to help you make Mexico not just a destination, but a new way of life. We've got so much to cover today, we had to split it into 2 episodes. So settle in and don't miss a moment. Don't wait for life to happen. Design it. And it starts right here. Hey, Brighton. Hello. Thanks for joining us on the podcast today.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, Brighton, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from and where in Mexico did you relocate to?
So I am originally from Wisconsin via Atlanta over to Portland, Oregon. That's where I live in the summers. And my wife and I travel down to La Paz, Mexico in the winters. And we've been doing that for about 5 years now. So we bought right before the pandemic. And so we spend our winters down there. So we kind of live in endless summer is the way we look at it. We're actually, as we're recording this, we're about to go next week. We're heading down to Mexico. So by the time you see this, we'll be in Mexico.
So why La Paz? How did that come up on your radar? Because La Paz is not as well known as some of the other Mexican resort towns.
Yeah, it's definitely not well known. And it's one of the things we love about it is kind of the amount of well-knownness, I guess. But yeah, let me tell you a quick story there. Portland, Oregon, rainy and really dreary during the winters. So my wife and I, we both work remotely. I have my own business and she works as a consultant. So we could pretty much work from anywhere. We would go to San Diego in the winters and we'd spend 2 months down there living just a few blocks from the beach. And it was wonderful, but incredibly expensive. And the first year we went down, we looked at real estate and like a shack in the neighborhood we were staying in that just needed to be torn down and rebuilt was $1 million. And so we realized that wasn't going to happen, but we really loved this idea of living in San Diego. For my wife's birthday, which is in February, we went to La Paz. And this was there's the Tijuana airport is right there on the border of San Diego. So you can actually enter from the US side and take a flight anywhere in Mexico. We chose La Paz. I read about it on a blog post, really. Someone posted some pictures and I said, this place looks pretty. We'd never been. We'd never heard of it before. And we decided, in a couple of weeks, we'll go down there for, a long weekend. And that's what we did. We went down for a long weekend, experienced the town, loved it, got a real estate agent, bought the first house that they showed us.
Wait, hold on.
That's why we're in La Paz.
Hold on. On your first trip?
First trip down to La Paz, probably the second day that we were there. Yeah, they showed us a house that we just fell in love with. And I'll tell you how much we paid for it in a bit and describe the house. So you'll get an idea of kind of what we were thinking is we were in San Diego where $1 million bought you almost nothing. And then we realized what we could do in La Paz. We kind of looked at each other and said, we can't not do this. So, and we did it.
Okay. What kind of magic, what kind of voodoo came over you? Like on your second day, you're like, let's do this. So what about La Paz did you love so much that you guys you weren't even thinking of buying a place in Mexico. You just came down for a vacation, like you said, for a weekend. And the next thing you know, you just made this big purchase. So What happened? Like, what did you love so much about La Paz?
Well, first off, when we got married about 20 years ago, we had talked about we should live internationally. Wouldn't that be fun? And we were looking at like Guatemala, Costa Rica, stuff like that, traveling down there a bunch and thinking that would be wonderful. But then life caught up with us and we just got into careers and whatnot, and it didn't happen. So the seed had been planted 20 years before, 15 years before, I guess, at the time. And then we got to La Paz, and actually, I think we arrived on a Sunday, and we were doing Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, or something like that. And the Malecon in La Paz, if you've ever been there, the Malecon comes to life on Sunday nights. It's always a wonderful place. The Malecon is kind of the boardwalk that goes through downtown, right along the Bay of La Paz. And Sunday is the biggest night. Sunday is family day in Mexico. So all the families are out. And La Paz is a tourist destination for Mexicans. So people come over from Guadalajara, from Mexico City. So there is a tourist infrastructure. And so there's restaurants and bars and things like that. But it's mostly Mexicans that are out and about. So it feels good. It feels real good to be a gringo in Mexico amongst Mexicans. And the the Malecon was just magical. We don't have kids, but there were multi-generational families out there on the Malecon walking along and skating and biking and in trailers and whatnot. And we were like, wow, this place is just magical. So that was the magic that said, we should go hire a real estate agent and see what this is all about and see, if this is possible. Could we actually live here?
Well, there aren't that many people that do that.
No, and that's something that I tell people. I tell people, go ahead, go somewhere, rent for a while,
Yeah.
try different places, try different parts of the city, see what works for you, see if you want, a condo, a house. But that's not how we did it. We did it, and I know a number of people who do things. I've met people who've bought sight unseen, like over the internet, and it's worked out for them. And I know other people who it hasn't worked out for. No matter how much preparation they put in, it just didn't work out. So yeah, whatever works for you, I guess.
I got to tell you, I mean, I've been selling real estate in Vallarta for 19 years and sold hundreds and hundreds of properties, tons of clients. I would say maybe half a dozen. They came down for the first time and they bought, like, boom, they fell in love with the city. So what's that called? What's it called?
Something unique, I guess.
Something unique. Yeah. The unicorn.
A unicorn,
You know,
exactly.
so did you guys just walk into a real estate office? You said, hi, we want to buy. What's out there?
So my wife just went Googling and found someone who had the best blog posts, actually. So shout out to Rebecca and Jim, Rebecca being the blogger that made it so that when we said real estate in La Paz, they came up top with some good articles, and we gave them a call and away we went looking at
Right.
some properties. And as I said, the first one that we came to, so the house itself is a palapa house. So it
Mhm.
has a palm thatched roof. So it's a 3 bedroom, 2.5 bath house. It was built probably right around, I don't know, maybe the 90s or something like that. So it's not a new house. It's not an old house, but it's all open inside. There's walls, but they don't go all the way up to the ceiling. And when you walk in, you just see this palapa, this huge palapa roof from the inside. They look gorgeous. A lot of restaurants use this style of architecture. And we saw it, and it had been a little bit of disrepair because the current homeowners hadn't been there in 5 years. So they were selling the place. They'd stopped coming down. They were older. I think one of them had gotten Alzheimer's and wasn't able to come down anymore. Had a pool, but there was a crack in the pool, so the pool was empty. It had a casita, so it has a separate little apartment, this little studio apartment type of thing, and it was on a half an acre lot. And it was, here's the reveal, $165,000, half
What?
acre lot. And I
Wow.
guess I failed to mention that we're on the beach. So we are out we're about 20 minutes from downtown La Paz, but we look across the bay at the city of La Paz. So at night, the moon rises over the city of La Paz, and we've got the view across the bay of the city, and we're right on the beach.
You got a beach house for 165,000.
Yes.
What a steal.
Yeah.
Wow.
To be fair, that was before the pandemic. That was right before the pandemic,
But
February of
still.
2020.
Yeah.
The house value right now, and it's kind of hard to say, there's a house that is listed just down the beach for 1.2 million.
Hmm.
I would guess our house is probably in the 800,000 range right now.
And just hold on. So what year did you guys buy the house during the pandemic?
2020,
2020?
so 5 years.
So in 5 years, the value went up from 165 to around 800.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Did you guys invest a lot of money in renovating the place?
We probably put in $50,000 or something
Okay.
like that. So it was,
Very
pretty much just
reasonable.
some repairs, and we put in a new pool, did some landscaping. That's probably the majority of what we did was landscaping to really, I mean, you do spend a lot of time living outside, especially in the winters in La Paz. So we wanted the outside to be nice, but had to put in, some of the roof needed some repairs, things like that. But it was pretty
Well,
good.
50 grand is reasonable,
Yeah.
right? So
Exactly.
are you guys part of a gated community or not?
No, we're not. So
Okay.
we are just kind of, there's a community, there's just like kind of one road into this section of beach. And actually in La Paz, there are very few beach homes. I'm guessing that we're one of a dozen, maybe 2 dozen that actually have frontage on the beach because there's the Malecon that goes along the beach for about 2.5 miles. And then out in El Centenario, where we are, there's a road that goes along the beach. So there's just this little small pocket of homes, one in El Centenario, one downtown, where you have direct beach access from your home. And of course, the beach is public, but not many houses have that direct beachfront access. And there's maybe 8 homes in this tiny little community that are right there along the beach.
And in Puerto Vallarta, we are primarily a condominium market here. We have a lot of condos going up. La Paz, do you guys have a lot of condos? Is it mostly
There,
freestanding homes?
there are some condos, but I think it's mostly freestanding homes. That's kind of the more typical thing. Especially El Centenario is this little bedroom community. It's nice. It's got good views across to La Paz, and that's why most people tend to live there. You can get a bigger piece of land. So living on a half acre or maybe a third of an acre is pretty common out in El Centenario on in a freestanding house. Houses there typically are probably going, for between 250 and 600,000 is kind of a typical range for
Mhm.
houses in La Paz. Of
Oh,
course,
great.
you can get more expensive ones or you can get less expensive ones too.
So you guys live just part time in La Paz then, and then you're in the States the other half of the year?
Yeah, so we live in Portland, Oregon for the summers. And then when we leave here, we rent out our house in Portland, but we have a caretaker down in La Paz because La Paz gets pretty hot. It doesn't get humid like Puerto Vallarta, but it gets dry heat. And because it's a palapa house, it's not really easy to air condition. So it's not a really great spot for a summer home. So we just have a caretaker that lives in the casita and takes care of the place and we pay him like, I don't know, $120 or something a month to be there and take care of things around there and keep the garden up, whatnot.
So what was your first year of being a resident in La Paz like? So like the cultural differences. I mean, you don't have any friends there. So what was it like making
Mm-hmm.
new friends with locals? I mean, are there a lot of Americans living there?
Yeah, there's a decent amount of Americans living here, but it's kind of a sweet spot, I think, because we're still a very small minority of the population. So if you go into a bar downtown and you sit up at the bar and there's another person who looks like they're from the US or Canada, you can strike up a conversation with him. I don't know if that exists that way in Puerto Vallarta because there's just so many people who are quote unquote outsiders, but you see another person who looks like they're from the States and you just chat with them because they're probably also struggling with the language and struggling to kind of figure out their way in another country. And so there's this ease at which you can create friendships as an adult. And so we really created, I have more friends in Mexico than I have up in the United States. And actually now I think I have more friends in the United States due to my connections in Mexico. That because I have met people in Mexico and they're now our friends up in the United States. So it's such a different thing. As an adult, it's really hard to make friends unless you have like kids in school or, my wife and I both work alone. So we don't have that way of making those connections. And in Mexico, it's just so easy. You go to the pickleball court and all of a sudden you're friends with all the pickleball people. And you go out to Marlies has the Wednesday Baja Buddies dinners. And so everyone's just invited to that. And then there's the newcomers are, I think that's Collins on Thursday afternoon. You can go to the newcomers lunches. So there are all these events that are just kind of set up. The majority of people are retired. And so they've got a lot of time to do things. And so there's a lot of stuff to do.
Yeah. Well, I think that one of the concerns with some people is if they're going to move to a foreign country where the native language is not English, they're concerned that, I mean, how am I going to get along with people? Am I going to make new friends? And, it's like that here in Vallarta, like you just pointed out, that when you go to like a restaurant or a bar, you'll strike up a conversation with someone, not just Mexican nationals, but foreigners, even Americans down here. People are just kind of, I don't know if it's something in the air where they're really a lot more social. I think your social calendar will fill up really fast in Vallarta. And I didn't really have that in the States unless, I went out with my friends socializing. But, Over here it's common where you get to know your neighbors. And where I lived in Pasadena before I moved down here for 6.5 years, didn't know any of my neighbors. Nobody would look and say hello. But those same people, you bring them down here in Mexico, they're
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 your best
they're
friend.
all very chatty. It's something in the air. I don't know what. But I think it's pretty easy to make friends in Mexico. I'm generalizing, but my experience has been in Vallarta. It's very easy to make friends here in PV.
Yes.
And it sounds
Yeah,
like it's
definitely.
like that in La Paz too, huh?
Yeah, definitely. It's so easy to make friends as an adult. Now, I haven't been able to create good relationships, close relationships with Mexicans, which is something I'm a little disappointed in. My Spanish is okay. Um, and, kind of a intermediate-ish Spanish. I can get around, I can order, I can go to an office downtown and get through my Spanish and communicate things. But it's not that I can have an in-depth conversation that you would have with a friend. Actually, just before this, I was meeting with a friend here, and we do our practice of Spanish during the summer. And when we get to more difficult conversation topics, it's like, okay, let's switch to English so that we can get through this. Otherwise, we're just always searching for the word. So I haven't been able to make good friends with Mexicans who don't speak English. And there's a lot of Mexicans that speak English, and I'm sure in Puerto Vallarta that's even
Yeah,
more common.
yeah, it is.
So yeah, that's something that I would love to have more experience with. There's a great group that meets, I think it's Tuesday nights, and they do interchange where they put two native Spanish speakers with two native English speakers at a table and then give conversations in both languages.
That's great.
And it's wonderful because you get to meet people, meet the locals, and they're wanting to learn English from you and you're wanting to learn Spanish from them. So it's a great way to learn the language and to connect with locals.
So besides the language, I don't want to say language barrier. I mean, you're learning, so it takes time. You pick up on words, and eventually you'll make out a sentence, and you get better and better with the conversation. But besides the language, were there any other challenges that you came across when you guys moved to La Paz half the year?
I think it might have just been us putting down our own roadblocks because we thought we could do everything and we didn't hire anyone to help us. And that's something that I would do differently probably is to find someone locally who is that guide, that local fixer. Sue or Blanca are two people in La Paz who do this for folks now. We went to get our CFE bill changed into our name. We went 12
So that's
times.
that's electric bill, right?
Yeah,
CFE.
the electric bill, yes. And we were driving an RV into downtown La Paz, and then we go to the CFE office and speak Spanish. Actually, no, there was one person there who spoke English, but still, even with that, like the paperwork, the way things work was just difficult. And things had changed in 2020, in January 2020, the rules had changed and something, or actually it was 2021, January 2021, the rules had changed for CFE. And so we were getting all this advice from people who hadn't done it in months. So same thing at the immigration office. We went multiple times. We didn't have all the copies we needed. We didn't have the right pieces of paper. We didn't necessarily know there were people that's their job. They just help people and help so many people. They're always really current on what's going on. And they help you with your water bill, getting your water bill changed into your name or getting your water service set up or your internet or your cell phone, which you're pretty much going to need a Mexican cell phone number because a lot of things like the banks have to send you a text message to be able to activate your ATM card or whatnot. So
Hmm.
we did a lot of that stuff on our own and we got through it. But now, knowing now what I know, I would have maybe brought someone on board to help.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a little bit different here. I mean, opening up a bank account, transferring the utilities to your name. I mean, the process is a bit different. Immigration, I just, my residency card, it just got really faded. It's like 10 years old. So I just went to get a new card. And my immigration specialist, I contacted her, I hadn't seen her in 10 years. And then, she had one of her employees meet me there. They already had done all the paperwork beforehand. If I had to do it, it's just way too time consuming. So if you can hire a professional to help you, I think that'll just save you multiple trips going back and forth, which can get
Mm-hmm.
frustrating from time to time, especially if you're just in town for a few days and you just don't
Yeah.
have that luxury of time, right?
Yeah, I mean, I could have saved 11 trips to the CFE office if I had gone with someone who knew what I needed to do, what kind of process I needed to go through. And that's again another kind of good lesson was just learning how processes work. Like there's a lot of bureaucracy, there's a lot of paperwork, things move slow. You have to kind of accept that. And it's really healthy. It's really good for you if you can accept that and adopt that lifestyle. But one of the things we learned was that if we were able to accomplish one thing in a day, we should celebrate. So we might go out with like three things on our plate to say, like, one of these things we're going to be able to complete today and then celebrate that. And then, the next day we could do something else. But you're totally right. If you're only in town for a short period of time, you're going to want someone to help you to make everything move smoothly. And they
Yeah.
do so much of the work for you ahead of time that you just show up and get your picture taken and away you
Yeah,
go.
I agree. It's kind of funny you say if we can get one thing knocked out on one trip on this list, it's time to
Hmm.
celebrate. I can so relate because every part of the world is different. Don't think you can just walk into an office thinking you're going to get something done right then and there. Sometimes something really, what you think is simple, could take you 5 hours, or it could take you 5 trips. It rarely takes you 5 minutes, right?
Yep.
It is what it is. You just
And
have to
always
adapt
always
to your
bring
new
your own
environment.
copies because folks will not make copies for you. If you need, a copy of your passport or something, bring it with you because they probably won't put it on the copier and make a copy. They'll send you down the street to the papeleria and you'll make it yourself.
So let's talk about cost of living. You shared with us what a smoking deal you got on that house. I don't think I've ever heard of a beach house for 165 grand, but anyways, I'm going to let that go. Cost of living. If you can share with us typical electricity, water bill, dining out, grocery shopping. If you can just kind of give us some of those numbers in La Paz, that'd be helpful.
Yeah, it's interesting because we don't operate with a budget. We kind of, we're in a situation where we pay for things, and it's also interesting to see how easy it is to even pay attention to how much things cost. Like you go to the grocery store and things are of course in pesos, and you're trying to make this like conversion, but it's like if you want an avocado, you buy an avocado and it's whatever price it is. And I was just arranging, we're going to be having a party when we get back and just arranging some catering for that party. And she's like, oh, the price of avocado is this much per kilogram. And I was like, is that a lot or a little? I don't know. I just, kind of like pay for a lot of stuff, but everything is much less expensive than the United States. So we live on the West Coast, so things are more expensive, but I kind of use as a rule of thumb like a third of the cost. So a margarita might cost $5, whereas up here I'm seeing it's costing 12 or 13 for a margarita. Um, and a dinner out, typically when we go to dinner here, we don't go to nice or even medium grade restaurants. We don't go to fast food or anything like that, but we kind of go to the food carts and the more simple food scene. But what we're paying there, which might be like, say, $12 or $15 for a meal, you pay $12 or $15 for a meal in La Paz, and you're getting, into the middle grade restaurants, which you're getting, really good food prepared by a chef. And you can get up higher than that, but typically, that's where we're going. We're going there. We're going to the places that sell the tacos for, just maybe $1.50 or something on the side of the road. In terms of electricity, we're probably paying, it comes every 2 months, but it's probably like averaging $30 a month or so, just to guess off the top, maybe 40. Water bills are really inexpensive, $10 or $15 every month. And we brought water our yard. Phone bill, that's the one I love. It's like $10 a month for a cell phone. So we actually just have a SIM inside, or electronic SIM inside my phone from the United States. So we pay something like $180 a month to have the phone from the United States. And then we just plug in this number, that the separate phone number is just $10 a month. And internet, we get internet. I want to say it's about $30 a month for internet. We have fiber optic internet. And we did have backup through Starlink, and that was like $65 a month. And because Starlink is less expensive in Mexico than it is in the United States, but you get similar service. But we actually turned off the Starlink because we were having such good service with this fiber. We use our phones as backup now, and we really haven't needed that. So we weren't using the Starlink at all. So, but it is so great to have Starlink. You can get decent internet anywhere these days. So I think those are some of the costs that
Okay.
come to mind.
Thanks for listening to Live by Design Mexico Edition. If there's a topic you'd love for us to cover, email us at info@tanielchemsian.com. We'd love to hear your ideas. And be sure to subscribe, share the show with a friend, and join me each week as we explore how to create freedom, adventure, and live by design under the Mexican sun. Design your days now, and your future will follow.